All right, here we go. First blood, first aluminum, first cuts for the project for the retrofit of Eisenhower's outdoor exterior wayfinding. 2006, you're out, old busted. 2022, new hotness. So I'll just give you a quick overview of what's coming down the pipe since we're starting to chew on it. Like I say, this is first blood. We've got the main monuments out. Here's the new one. You got the two side monuments, the two secondary entries. Those are out. These are new. And then you got the 12 bangers, and you got the 9 bangers, and you got 6 bangers. So it just happened to be that I started with the smaller ones, not necessarily because they're smaller. It's just that all of the rest of these have big poles down the middle. So they're more of the same species. Since these didn't have a kind of pole, but they got taller and they basically changed the way they mounted, I wanted to focus my fire on this one first. So actually this little guy, even though he's smaller, is slightly more difficult versus these other ones here. We're the pole's already there, and I just had to mimic that and, translate that pole into this. But this one I had to cook up a whole new mounting system. So that's why I focused on the little guys. But the whole idea is you can see where this one and this one and this one and even this one ish are all going to be kind of similar. So you can use this little guy here as sort of a, kindergarten. Get cracking on it, and then you'll see the rest of it's going to be, dun 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 na, 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 power station. So power station number 2 actually is the name of that song. So let's go over the lay of the land. We've got ourselves our main cabinet parts here. You have a total of 5 signs for this particular type. So I just grouped everything in quantities of 5. So just make sure everything works that way. Rather than actually having, 15 of everything and just having a giant piece of paper, I went ahead and broke it down by sets. So just look for that, do your counts. But this is your main box with the jigs. So look for that. You got your sidecar. This all sounds familiar, right? Got a little sidecar, got a main. Again, look for 5 sets and look for 10 sets of jigs. To save time, I'm just thinking everything for you guys, time, every bend, I think of it. I don't just throw this stuff willy-nilly and make you stand at the break. Don't curse my name in vain saying, oh, how dare you, always making me bend stuff. If I can try to save some bends or I try to save some jig time or whatever, I do. Every time I make you guys go to that break and bend, I think of it and I whip myself a little bit just to feel your pain. So don't think I'm just, little tab happy and make you bend, stand there all day long. I can feel your tears, your sadness. Anyway, swing low. So this one is just going to have no jigs. These middle parts here will be jigless. They'll be internal. You have your skins, the main frame. I do have them directional. Technically they aren't, but it's just easier this way. So look for, 5 each there. And then these ones for the sidecar are exchangeable. Doesn't matter. They can mirror one side, the other. Doesn't matter. So look for that. Well, I'll go over these little jig bars, these little drill jigs for the bars. We're going to be doing it different than the ones that are there. We're going to flip it around and make it easier. We're going to use riv nuts. And then I'm going to go ahead and do the keyholes are going to be in the skin this time. Much easier to get on and off the sign. We had some fun just trying to check out the ones that are existing, and some of them are very tough to get off. Look for caps. Don't lose these. They're going to be Lord's capsing. These guys here, these are going to be the new clips. This right here is going to save us possibly weeks of time. This, money in the bank right here. That's what we're talking about. There we go. You can see those now. So anyway, we'll go over that. You've got your 1/4-inch mounting box plate thing. We'll go over that. That's how the new sign is going to mount to the existing. And then just look for some clear circles. You do have brass inserts. So, okay. So like I say, you've got a main box, you got sidecar, and you've got some mounting box down here. You got your jigs. So I know there's a lot of eyeballs, which usually means, look over here, look over there. There's a lot of stuff. Sure. But it's nothing that we don't really normally already have done just even recently. You got a main box you're going to build first. And then you're going to go ahead and probably build off of that. I think that's how you guys do that. You go build off and start attaching those to the side. I want to see Lords and rivet, or go ahead and shoot your screws either way. But you want to Lords these on to that frame, make sure it's nice and strong. And then you can go ahead and build off of there. Like I said, A, B, C, and D is jigless, so they're going to fit inside and just tack it in. And make sure that I do have C and D. Now I didn't mark them, so just to save time, but you do have a face and a back. So front or face is the front will be like, the way they face towards the boxes. So technically this side here is the F, and then the back will be the B side. So if you see something, but the fact that you can see where the pole, the little 2x-pole post, whatever tube is going to be towards the back. So you want to make sure that these face the proper way. Otherwise we're going to be kind of very sad, because these are going to be, locked in. But I want to have that little bit of movement, so that way when they're sliding this thing on, there's a single lift point up here. They're going to be sliding this onto this piece of tube. They're not going to be able to see it. It's enclosed. So this one here, they'll be able to kind of look under and make sure they get that lined on first. So this one is truly just a straight square. But as it slides up, it's going to hit this one and hit this one. That's why I didn't want left to right, because this is going to lock it in place. But I wanted to have some maximum flow to the front. So again, make sure C and D face the proper way. And then A and B, which, like I said, they're not marked. It just means that A and B don't have the slide through. Again, with production, every little bit counts. So I didn't want to just chop a hole in all of them, because that would be a waste of time. So anyway, and A and B, for what it's worth, are symmetrical. So don't worry about front and back, arrow. So just again, C and D, make sure those go the right way, and that they are the bottom ones here. Again, otherwise, very sad days in the village, many deaths. So go ahead and build your sidecar off of the main frame. Once you get the main frame all done, probably build the main frame first. I don't think I wouldn't skin it yet though. I would go ahead and then make sure you get this. You can shoot all your rivets and screws from the main frame box into this. You're not going to have any room to go this way. So what these eyeballs are pointing out is something we haven't done yet. Again, always something new. So as you know, the existing sign just has 2 J bolts just right here that hold this whole thing up. So there's no pole or anything. So we were kind of brave the way we did it, but it works. But being that this one's a little bit taller and just wider, there's a lot more kind of going on, and it sort of cantilevers the weight over a little more than this one did, because this one kind of counteracted this weight. I wanted a much more substantial way of mounting this. And since this is going to teeter forward, hence that post in the back, that tube. So I did some math. I went ahead and weighed each box. So you're almost 30 pounds. So just in these boxes alone, you got almost 200 pounds once you get these boxes installed. So that's why I wanted to counteract the front lean. So the mounting structure is going to look something like this. So it's going to be 1/4-inch plate, dog bone and slit together, as you know. So you have a top here and you have a bottom here. And then you're going to be able to slide the post through and then lock it in down here. You'll have a 1/8-inch island fill right there to lock in, and then just make sure it's good to go. I would make sure you tack this all together first and tack this in. And then it's very important to double check that this guy is at 90 for sure, because as you can see, this is going to slide down, bonk. And then I have it right up against the back here. So that way, when all that weight is kind of pulling forward, it's going to lean up right against and lock forward, bonk, and lock forward, bonk. That's why this particular post, I'd like to see that at least 1/4-inch, or at least 3/16. I know we have some laying around. If you have some 2x2 quarter, or if you want to bring one in, you really only need one stick for this. Like I said, this particular species is the only 5. These are the only 5s that'll have this. So if you want to just go ahead and bring in a stick 1/4, that way you're welding 1/4 to 1/4. It'll be nice and strong. And you can get all 5 of them out of one stick. What's up, Edgar? So you'll slide that in there. Again, this little looky here, just throw a quick bevel, so it's easy for them to slide, a little bit easier for it to slide on, because they have to clear this one and they have to clear this one. So weld this up, and once you get it all tacked together, just burn, baby, burn. You're going to burn, you'll be able to burn this plate to this fully on there. You'll have a nice fillet weld. That's that's this plate here, this back plate right there. You'll be able to burn that right on there. And then on the, you'll see there, and then you'll be able to burn this. And then this plate dies out right up against there. So if you look at this top view, yeah, so this middle spine, which is this spine right here, this dies out right up against the post. So you can see where you're going to be able to get fillet weld. You'll be able to fillet weld this plate right there. So this post will be burnt really well. But the whole idea, again, this one here, you want to make sure that you keep, there's no welding up here, because this is going to sit, the sign is going to slide over this whole boot thing, and it's going to sit right on that deck. That I'm calling it the top deck there. So that 1/4 inch plate top deck needs to be free of any burrs. It needs to be free of any welds, any kind of accidental Lord's blobs or anything that's up here. Make sure you zing it nice. And that's why I'm saying you're not going to weld on the top side around where that is, because the sign needs to sit right flush. But otherwise, you're going to burn all in here. Everything's fine. The other thing you're going to do, just like you do with our Mjolnirs, so it's the same setup. You got the tools ready to go. I would bring in some taps just to make sure you got enough, but you're going to do just like you do on your Mjolnirs. You're just going to take your drill and you're going to burn through with a 1/2-13 tap right here and right here, the top deck. Those two are what's going to actually hold down the sign once the sign's put down. So basically this post holds it in place, keeps it from tilting, keeps it left to right. And then when this slides down, Install has access right here. They'll reach in and they can bolt this bad boy down. And then that way it'll keep it from moving around. So again, that's all you got to really do to this is burn it up really well. Make sure your stick is square. Keep all your welds below. Make sure it's clean. And then go ahead and tap it, run through, and then you can wait till after prep or whatever. I have a 2-inch bolt right here. So 2-inch fully thread goes right through, and that gives plenty of room, I think. So maybe a 2-inch will be fine. More is better. It's fine. So now you can see where all of this takes up this bottom cavity. We haven't really done this before. So all I really did was, instead of, how in our monument signs, we have a 2.5-inch pocket down here for our Mjolnirs where we take the bottom and flip it over, right, on all of our monuments. All I did was stretch it to 8 inches. That's all. So you just have like this uber jig cavity here. So this is all one big inside jig. You're just going to tack the frame around it like we do. You can even tack it on the inside there and clean it up, and you are clear. You can see how much room there is. You can weld on the inside of this pocket cavity inside the sign. You can weld all the way around there as well. Make sure it's all fine in there, because you can see how much room I have here. Now, that being said, once you're done welding, up in here, you can weld the jig to the flange on the inside. Then you can weld it around the outside here, get down on it, make sure it's nice. But once you're said and done, you want to get back inside here with like your little peanut grinder, and you want to make sure that this inside is completely clear of any Lord's blobs that might get in there or any welding slag. Because again, this surface, looking on the inside of the bottom here, this whole surface of 09 needs to sit nice and square against that 1/4-inch plate right there, that top deck I'm calling it. So anyway, so that's all. Just make sure that's all nice. But I think we'll be fine, because this runner here comes all the way down. And so you essentially have the face of 090, you have this frame of 09, and you have the underneath 09. So you're almost pushing 3/8 of an inch close or whatever. So I think even this sign sitting just on the ground in the shop should be fine, because you'll have skin 09 this way, and then you'll have another piece of 09 jig all the way across. So for strength, I think it's going to be fine, but it's essentially one big fake skirt. So I know on install, you're for Jonathan, the other signs have a little removable thing here. You don't have to worry about any of that. This whole sidecar, other than the top lid for lift point access, the entire thing is sealed up, which is awesome. So just Bondo it, clean it up for prep, and we're done. You don't have to worry about little doors and little, so just this bottom one, you slide that off. That'll be your access to get to there, and that's it. So I think that's it for sidecar. And then, like I say, this is just an 8-inch version of our flipped over. Just make sure all in there is clean. But you can, weld all here really good, make sure it's all good. Now, when you go to put the skins on, you're thinking, remember Indio letters, these little splooches look familiar. as I just said, you have 090 frame here, and now you have an 090 void. This whole thing is an 090 void above the skin. Now on the Indio letters, I gave those little discs to float, saving time, whatever. I think we're okay here. You're just going to Lords really good all the way around, and then go ahead and just put some good blobs all in here, like good quarter size blobs. And then that way it'll squish out. And once those cure up, I think those will be our connector buffers between the jig that's back in 09 and then the face that's an 09 forward. So that's that. And then, like I say, the one downside of the jigless design is that these are a back in 090. So you don't get that Lord's love. So again, just go ahead and put a blob on these. And then that will carry out that, I can get rid of these that we can see what's up. Yeah, so that way, just make sure you blob these up really good. This is only 8 inches across, so it's not that big a deal. But, again, it's unsupported right here. So go ahead and blob it up really good. And this is a seam as well. So I don't usually like to leave a seam live like that too much. So again, it's going to be very important to just goop it up really good and let it cure. Let it squish out the seam, maybe even inject a little bit in there and then scrape it. That way it'll seal it right up. But you can see where your skin is going to be right there. So I tried to keep it simple, less jigs, that kind of stuff. And then right here too, no, I don't really have a crossbar because you need access for your lift point straight through. So this is just a piece of metal, just a single piece. So don't lose that one. There's not going to be any like descriptor or anything on it. So it could look like just a little piece of scrap floating around. So just make sure you keep an eye out for that. Keep a weather eye, Lords it up, and then that will give you a little splotch point too right there. All of this is exposed frame. This will sit fine. That's all good there. But put a little splotch there, and that'll seal that up. But you do have a door on top. So that's sidecar, and I think you got all that now. So then we'll talk about mainframe. Mainframe's super simple, other than, like I say, you got 200 pounds, which isn't, it's not that bad. But once you get this all installed, you got 200 pounds. And then the 200 pounds has to work its way down to basically these epoxied in studs through the 1/4-inch plate frame. So that being said, I kind of wanted to beef up this main box. So these jigs are going to be beefier than normal. Because like I say, they're going to be taking all that stress from the 2x2s and working it through the face and shear, working it through these 2 bolts and then getting it to the ground. So we want to make sure that everything's welded up nice and tough. What's up, girl? Just weld it up good. I do have a notch here for that plate. So you're going to have a piece of 1/4-inch plate. It's universal. I do have the 6 points here where you can mount the for lordsing and whatever. I have 6 Cleco spots that match the, there it is. So I got these 6 Cleco spots here, so you can line up the main frame with the sidecar here. But of course they go there. So that's all these holes are for. So you can clearance whatever hardware or whatever you decide to use to put these together. But look out for that 1/4-inch. But that 1/4-inch will notch in, so you can weld that 1/4-inch really well to the actual jig. That way we're transferring massive load through here, make sure it gets to the 1/2-inch bolts, and then that way the 1/2-inch bolts get it right to our epoxy bolts. So everybody's happy. Physics is happy. Isaac Newton is stoked with his apple and all that. So I think that handles that. Nothing you need to worry about. You do have a slide through here. Just 2x8 is fine. 2x2 single lift point works its way through both. And that way, it's catching both here nice and strong, but, you have access through the top install. You'll go straight through. I think a single cinch will be fine. This isn't going to weigh that much. So, okay. So you got your frame, you got your sidecar built onto it. You know what you're doing here. You got this all sexy. So let's talk about our clips here. So the clips and the bars. Let's see real quick. I'm going to go to the brass insert. Heads up, you do have a brass insert. So this is just a piece of 1/2 inch. Doesn't get any easier than this. You're going to just do a 1/2 inch clear, tack in, knock in one brass insert. It goes out to paint. This is just going to get straight vinyled. And then that way you'll have one single hole in the face. That's all you need, a 1024 stud, like 1 inch. And that way it's instantly aligned. You'll just do silicone and some tape, and then you can just steering wheel it on there and make sure it's nice and straight. So that way you don't have to worry about, vinyl shop doesn't have to worry about a level line or anything. They can just go crazy with these and just slap on the vinyl. And then when it comes time, that's all you got to do is just put one little stud in the middle that lines you up in your hole, and then stick it down, good to go. So, and that gives that shear strength. It'll never just kind of slide off or whatever. But don't worry about like reaching in and having to put, you're not going to have access. So you can see where it's actually behind on this side, this actual frame strut. So, don't worry about putting a bolt on it or anything. But that's it. Just silicone and whatever. Now that's it. All that's left is the bars. So, and the boxes. So for that reason, let's look at what you got to cut. Obviously we're copying what we already have existing-ish. So you're going to cut these at 46. This is just 2x2 by 1/8. Keep the weight down, keep it cheaper. It's all we need, because each box is only 30 pounds, so it's fine. So you got one stick. You can cut all of this. This is good for one job for these particular signs. Going forward, the other signs have the pole down the middle, so don't get ahead of things. I haven't figured that out yet, but I think the pole is going to like chop these, so they're actually probably going to be shorter. I have to figure out how that pole is going to attach. So this is only for this job, the 2x2, but you will have, a whole bunch more of this coming. So if you want to bring in, a bunch of 2x2 by 1/8, feel free. We're going to need it. Also the 1x3 by 1/8. This is enough for these. The other signs are going to have those too, and they're even going to be longer. So again, if you want to just bring in a bunch, I think I forget what our numbers are on these, but they're more than these. So we got plenty of material coming, material requirements coming. So let's talk about these bars and all that. So once you get this built, before you lords on the faces, obviously you're going to slide in the 2x, and they're just going to slide into the first frame here, and they're going to slide into the second mid brace. And then what you're going to do is just mark them for 27 inches here. I got this called out. Here's another eyeballs. So, and it doesn't have to be perfect. Obviously I gave you a couple inches of safety here, and it's just a matter of passing this frame. So, but just throw a quick measure, 27, you slide it in, mark it, make sure it's there, and then just tack it from the inside, tack it there. But then you do want to make sure it's strong. But it is a double-edged sword, but you want to weld it to the 09 face very well. And you want to weld it here. You can weld it on the backside too. It's fine. Here, you can weld it back here, or you can weld it on the inside, either way, but you want to weld it here. Now, keep in mind though, when you add up a 2-inch weld here and a 2-inch weld here and a 2-inch weld, it's going to want to shrink this whole face. So that's why it's important that we have these bigger jigs to fight the warping and the shrinking and stuff. So just keep that in mind. But it's important. I don't know if you want to burn. I don't think we need 8 linear inches. I don't think you want to burn the whole thing all the way around. If anything, maybe you want to burn horizontally, because a vertical burn of 2 inches is going to shrink it that much. But if you go across the top and the bottom, and you go across the top and the bottom, then the shrinking is going to happen horizontally, which is, I think, better rather than, but we don't want to burn, we're not looking for Instagram, weld porn. You don't want to burn all the way around, but we do want to burn these in pretty good. So anyway, use your judgment on that. But like I said, I think maybe top and bottom burns, George burns might be better, because like I said, it'll pull this way rather than, imagine 2-inch, 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 2-inch full beads is going to want to shrink this whole face pretty good. It's going to put a lot of stress vertically. But again, that's why I say make sure you tack these in pretty well. Throw on maybe some little welds or little beads actually, instead of just tacks, because it's got to hold up all that weight, and it's going to put up with all that stress, that tension, when you go to shrink that face, when you put that heat into it. So necessary evil, like I always say with welding. You got to weld, but it sucks because it destroys everything. So anyway, build the frame, slide those in, get those welded in. I think you're good to go at that point. Then I think, and then, your sidecar's all done. Then I think you can close it up, make sure this guy's in there. I don't know if you want to just lords that in. I got 193 Clecos. But I don't know if you just want to tack it, because you're going to be tacking this in to here anyway. So you probably could just tack it around the edge, make sure it doesn't go anywhere. It's going to get sandwiched. That's fine. So, but make sure that's in there. And then I think that's good. Then once you get your faces on, you want to lords these on. Make sure that, let's see, I haven't sent these yet. So I want to make sure that this is really clear. I'm going to put an F here for the front just to make sure that you know. I can assume that you know, but the bars are to the back, right? And this little cutout's to the front, but I just want to make sure. So I'm going to update that. But, holes to the front here. And then you're going to go ahead and lords these on, close it all up, and then lords on the sidecar faces, close all that up. You're fine. Once that's done, I would powwow with John G as far as the clips for the boxes. What do you want to do there? Because you're gonna rivet these on. So here's what's up. I'm just copying reverse channel tabs. You're just gonna take 09. You're gonna clamp this side, right? Clamp it, bend it 90. Perfect. Now, you want to rivet these on. I know sometimes you play it fast and loose, and sometimes you use self tappers instead of rivets. But the self tappers, this isn't clearanced for a bigger hole and then a smaller hole, and it'll never clamp, and you're going to get shavings underneath, and they're going to be 4-by. You want to just cut these off and then rivet both sides, especially now that you have air back in the shop. You're good to go. Rivet these on. Now that these 90 clips are going to be sitting there, does John G want to deal with that? Do you want to send this to paint after? And do we want these painted? Don't even cut them yet. Maybe you just send this stick out. He paints this. He paints all this, and then with some time before you get cracking, you can go ahead and cut them and then just rivet these on like as a last minute thing. Or we don't even paint these, but we just paint this. Whatever's easiest, work it out with John G, whether or not he wants these clips. But the idea is, just like reverse channels, you're just going to bend this as one, and then don't worry about it being pretty. You're just going to cut down the middle, whether it's a bandsaw or whatever, and then make sure the burrs on the back are kind of cleaned up. But you don't even need to like flush cut this, because nobody's going to see it. Even if the little tab is sort of, the cutoff tab is just sitting right here and it's sitting right here, nobody's going to see it. The box is going to slide over it. You'll never see it. So kind of down and dirty kind of thing, but it's going to save us so much time. What took us months before, or weeks, let's say, it did take a good solid week to make these tabs out of 2x2 and all that. It's just going to be almost instantaneous. So we're so far ahead of the game. It's great. I give you one extra tab, but there's 12 tabs here. That's enough for all boxes here. So yeah, talk to John G, prep. It might be easier just to leave them off. That way they can just sand this smooth and paint it and all that, and then do that after, or whatever. It might be easier. I'm always a fan of get your fab done before paint. Just be done with it. That way you don't have to deal with it later. Okay, last thing is the bars. So the bars, I flipped it around. Like I said, it's a lot easier now because before, in my inexperience, I put the keyhole slot on the bar itself, and it took a lot of sort of fabbing and a lot of filing, like some kind of animal. And I wasn't in control of the router then. But now I'm having the router do the keyhole. The keyhole is going to be on the face. So the faces have it here. There's your keyhole. And then what you're going to do is, I got this cool little jig. You're going to 1, 2, 2. And again, I know it's a pain in the butt to be at the break for everything, but it's worth it. And all you're going to do is cut these to size. 58 inches is your overall length. So again, here's another eyeball. Before you drill, or before you cap, just slide this on, do a 5/32 hole this way, and it's the same one on the bottom. Just hit the bottom, do your 5/32 pilot, you're good to go. At that point, you're going to take it out to let's bring these in, but you're going to take this out to a 25/64. Is that got? Yeah. You're going to take a 25/64 final, and then we want to make sure we bring in some 1/4-20 steel riv nuts, not 5/16. Let's do 1/4-20s. And I'm going to bring in these bolts. I'm going to have special bolts for this project because these have a wider head than what we have like on the shelf. And then this will be perfect for our keyhole slot. So you can see how like wide this head is. So I think that's going to work out great. So it'll make it a lot easier You're just going to, drill, riv nut, and then just do your Lord's caps. And then, once you have this all drilled, then you can do your Lord's caps. You don't have to worry about accuracy or anything. And then send them out. So these get painted. And then that's that. So I gave you plenty of drill jigs. These are going to be the same drill jigs for the whole project. So every single bar we do. So I got plenty of them because, in case they worm out a little bit, don't worry about it so much. But 5/32 pilot hole, and then, slide it. Now, what'll be cool is you can, and then you're gonna be adjusting, because I did calculate for the thickness, because they give you the thickness there. So it'll actually slide on the riv nut. Let me have my side. Give me a side shot here. There it is. So it's going to slide on the riv nut, which will be nice. And then it's actually going to float the bar a little bit. So there's only 2 points of contact, which will make it a lot easier. Having this float will help. When we took the other one off, a little bit of corrosion, a little bit of dirt. After several years, this thing doesn't move. We were banging on it with a hammer. Well, we actually were banging on it with a brushless impact driver, which is, it's a hammer. Everything's a hammer. But you'll use this to sort of tighten. You'll have to kind of adjust the screw for tightness. But I think this will be superior as far as like how it slides on. And then the top one, just so you know how it works, it rests and that bottoms out. And then I went ahead and, lessons learned, I went ahead and stretched this one so it does not bottom out. So that way it's easy. It hangs on the top one. The bottom one gives you maximum adjustability, and then just kind of fine tune them. Maybe what you do, since this is 090, you can take like a piece of 1/8 inch and use it as a guide when you go to screw these on. So you just take like a piece of 1/8 inch, or just take a piece of 09 as a gauge. So stuff it in there, drill this down, seat it, and then pull it out, and then back it off a little bit. Maybe we talk about putting a little Loctite or something. I don't know. We'll have to jump off that bridge when we get to it. But anyway, that's the idea behind those. So that takes care of bars. Sidecars handled, skins. Okay, so last part here is for install. You guys are winning too. I made it easy for you guys, really easy. As you know, there's that. This is the size of the footing. So what you're going to do is just go over, take the sign off, cut the existing J-bolts like we talked about. They are in this area right here. So you're definitely, there's no conflict there. And I already talked to Jonathan. So you're going to do the counter nut method. So you're going to, Hilti these in. These are 1/2 inch studs. You're going to Hilti those in like we do. And then you're going to counter tighten bolt or nuts. Now, to make this really simple for you, what you're going to do is take and Fab, you might want to do this for them if you want. You're just going to take some 1 inch square tube cuts that are, because they're the base is only 7 inches wide here, 8 inches wide. So if you take some 1x tubes that are just like what is that, 18 inches, 16 inches wide. If you take 2 of these little tubes just like that, and then you lay it across, so you'll use your template. I'm going to give you a template. You're going to have a template. You're going to drill it. You're going to epoxy in your studs. You're good to go. Then what you're going to do is just take 2 pieces of 1 inch square tube, lay it across just like that in between where the studs go. I think I got it here. There you go. Yep. Let's bring that right in. So you just put those tubes right there, and then all you got to do is counter tighten your nuts up against there. Now, where this sits perfectly against the quarter means it sits perfectly against there. So every little 1/16 of an inch that you put it up means that then you have a little bit of room there. So that's all you got to do. So if you let this sit directly against the 1x, then that means the sign will be probably, and in some places, if the concrete's up, it might actually not. So you want to have a little bit of love. So even if you just lift this whole thing like a 1/16 off, then slide your tubes out, that's when you'll know, then the sign itself will have a nice 1/16 float. Water can go underneath it, all that. So that's really easy, I think, for you guys. You're just going to have a wood template, drill your 4 holes, get it out of the way, epoxy in, slap a couple sticks of 1x, put your little mounting strut thing here, put that down, and then you're good to go. So I think that's really simple for install. I'm going to go ahead and make the wood template. I'll make the wood template about as wide as this, but I'll make it as long as the entire, because these are all pretty much the same size. So I'll just make a 54, and then that way you can just center it up, do your measurements, and then just hit it. You're good to go. So, so I think that's install. That's fab. I think it's all good. And again, go to town on these because it's just going to be more of this. It's just going to be more of these. It's just going to be more. So whatever you're doing here, if something's not working, hit me up because that way we can shift course and make corrections and stuff for the ones that are coming after this. But yeah, go to town on these. So otherwise, that's it. Good luck. We're all counting on you. If you have any questions, hit me up. Check.